here is another example of using animation or using loops to create animation, and we actually use 2 loops in this program. The first loop will propel the gnome forward inch by inch along the edge of the cliff here, and then once the gnome reaches truly the edge of the cliff and is no longer on solid footing, we have a second loop that will propel him downward. Okay, so let's write this code. It's not a ton of code, but it's slightly more complex than the loops that we've seen so far in this unit. What I have up to this point is basically the setup. We have the gnome standing up at the top of the cliff still, and the music is playing and all that. So let's write the loop that will take care of his motion along the top of the cliff there. Now let's set up a for loop, and we'll say we'll use a loop counter of say I, and we'll go from about 1 to 300 for the time being. Okay, and basically what he's doing is moving along kind of on a downward slope, a very slight downward slope. So what we'll do is we'll propel him forward, propel him forward or to the right by incrementing x by 1. And then to get him slightly downward on a slight downward slope, we'll increment y, his y position, but by much less than that. And you know, I had to play with the values, but adding about 4/10 to his y position will get him on the right slope that'll make him look like he's walking along the edge of that cliff. So once we have the x and y coordinates, we can use the shape.move, because I did create that gnome as a shape, and we're moving him, the gnome, to the new x and the new y. Okay. All right, so let's run this now. If you look at the result here, okay, did you see what happened? He went whoosh, right over and shot over very quickly. All right, this is not what we want. So what we can do is slow it down with the delay method. So if we say program dot delay, pass it about 50 milliseconds, and that'll slow things down considerably. Okay, and there he goes. So this is the loop that is propelling him on this slight downward slope. Okay, obviously we want the behavior to change when he reaches about this point or so. So let's write a second loop that we will switch to once he reaches about this point, and that second loop is going to propel him downward very quickly. And you know what, why don't we, I think I'll write a sub. You guys are familiar with subs. Let's call this sub fall. You don't have to do it this way, but I think this will be a decent way to do it. And then we'll say, how about this, for z equals 1 to, I have about 600 here. That will, you may have remembered he fell out of view and was falling for quite some time out of view until we heard the splash. So we'll make sure he drops straight down out of view about 600 or so. Let's see how, yeah, the height of the window is 600, but he doesn't start at the absolute top of the window. So 600 will get him out of view and have him falling a little while, and then we'll hear the splash. So let's see, I have to end my for loop here. Okay, so for z equals 1 to 600, we're just going to propel him downward very quickly. So we can just increment the y position by 1 and then move him x doesn't change, but we still have to provide the x coordinates. So that'll send him straight down if x is the same, but y is incremented. And then, you know, I did put in a slight delay here. You could probably get by without this, but just throwing 1 millisecond in there will make the falling more natural. I probably tried it without a delay, and he just fell a little too quickly. So this is the fall. Now, of course, the program as is not going to have him fall. Okay, there's a little bit of logic in here. The way we have this written, he's moving along the edge of the cliff, and he's going to keep going until that first loop runs out and reaches 300. Okay, so we have to change this. Inside our first loop, okay, this is where he's teetering along the edge of the cliff. Down here, he's going straight down. Okay. In this loop here, we have to assess his position, okay? And once he gets to about a 175x, meaning about 175 pixels from the left edge of the window, then we know he's no longer on solid footing. And how do I know it's 175? Because I played with it and I tested it beforehand. So you have to, there's a little bit of guesswork involved here. But we're going to say if x is equal to 175, that's that value where he can no longer justifiably remain at the top of the cliff. So you know what, before I code my if statement, I'm going to throw an end if. I always get in the habit of doing that. It's like a sandwich. I lay out both pieces of bread first and then type in the middle. Okay, so if he is at that position, 175, say, we want to do a few things. The first thing we want to do is stop this loop. Stop this loop that I'm in. How can I stop the loop that I'm in? Well, here's one way of doing it. We know that this loop is going to keep going until I is equal to 300, till the loop counter I is equal to 300. Okay. One way to stop the loop prematurely is to force I to a value of 300, and this will stop the loop. Okay, because we don't want him to keep going to the right. We want him to go straight down, right? So that's why we have to stop this loop. And setting I equal to 300 immediately, rather than waiting for it to count out one at a time by increments of 1. We can set I to 300, and that'll end the loop. Okay. The second thing we want to do is stop the happy music from playing, and that is the you know how to manipulate sound at this point. That's the Pan's flutes. Okay, and then the third thing we're going to do is call our fall subroutine. Okay, so now program control switches from this loop here, because we're stopping it prematurely, and we're moving to the fall subroutine. And now execution moves to this point, and the GNOME is going to go straight down. One more thing that you want to do, I guess you could do it right inside the sub, not inside the loop, but still inside the sub. You want to play the sound. Oh, you know what? I should have we'll do sound.play. And then there's a splash file in there that we can play. Okay, let's try it. Oh, once again, I forgot the word then. It's a habit of mine. All right, here we go. Okay, once again, we had that first loop where he's moving along the edge, nice and slowly, and then he reaches that about 175 pixel from the left edge of the form right about here and then plummets to the bottom.